Good day. I am H. Robert Silverstein, MD, for the Preventive Medicine Center and West Hartford Cable Access TV. I hope you enjoy these programs, and if you have any suggestions, just let me know. Today is going to be a potpourri of mixture of different things. It is the day after Super Bowl, so Super Bowl 57. So we'll talk about that, I guess, to begin with. I think I'm not a fan of Mahomes, but on the other hand, I cannot deny that the man is truly amazing as a quarterback. I like Tom Brady, and I was sort of on the side of Philadelphia this time. And that quarterback is also amazing. So perhaps he'll be back next year to try and probably hopefully beat Mahomes, but we shall see. As you know, when it comes to betting, the bookmakers were right. They expected the Kansas City Chiefs to win by 3 or 4 points, and that was exactly what happened. Very high scoring, interesting game with a few mistakes here and there. All right, now about Rihanna. Rihanna was pregnant, and you could sort of tell that. I did not have the eagle eyes to see that. It was pointed out to me. Then it was confirmed online to me. I thought her performance, the choreography was amazing. Everything else was mediocre. There was no melody, real melody in her music. The dancers seemed overly aggressive, which, by the way, if you watched the beginning of the game, Kansas City defense was way overly hostile, aggressive in their takedowns. So going on, Rihanna, nothing special there, and but the setting and the choreography were remarkable. Somebody said those guys dressed in white were a cross between the Ku Klux Klan and the Ewoks of Star Wars. I don't know. I didn't like them. Their movement seemed much too aggressive to me. Now let's go on to, let's see, here's a little pearl. It took 116 days to write the Constitution. Think about that. That's almost 4 months. And those people were incredibly smart. And I think anybody who wants to argue with the Constitution at this point is frankly presumptuous, egotistical, and narcissistic. Those people were way smarter. It's not that we shouldn't have a Congress. It's not that we shouldn't have a Supreme Court, but we should also have proper deference and respect. Now, I had an article that was published. It's called the Unhappening of Heart Disease. So if you go to a search engine of your choice and insert the Unhappening of Heart Disease, you can eventually find the article. You can also go to my website, where there are a few lines of introduction, and right there in the beginning of that introduction is a link, and that link takes you to the actual publication of the article, The Unhappening of Heart Disease. I've sent it around to a few people. The schools in Baltimore, I can't believe this statistic, no student was able to do math at school level, at predicted at what should have been school level. No student is what it said. The education of students in the inner city is obviously not being done correctly. On my Facebook site, I posted a partial explanation for why I think that this is happening, and it has to do with connection between parents and a focus on education. Parents overseeing their children doing their homework, working with them at the time of doing their homework, and a degree of discipline that is necessary. Frankly, I wasn't so guided. And as a result, I claim I have ADD, but I really don't know how to study, and particularly at length. I have kids who know how to study. I have grandchildren that know how to study, but I didn't really know how to study when I went through high school, which was sufficiently easy and the work was forced on me. So I got that stuff done. But in college, I was sort of lost. And in med school, in a certain sense, I was lost, except I roomed with a person I call the smartest person in the world, Jerry Thomas Guy. And he was so smart and he was so disciplined. And so it sort of rubbed off on me. I did get through med school with decent grades. Now, let's see here. 60% of Americans feel they are not as well off as they were a year ago. Who is the administration? What are the economic policies? Who has caused this? There is no question. That ends up to be Joe Biden and those who support him. I am a Democrat, but it is the Democrats who are acting out at the present time to the problems for the middle and lower classes. Of course, the rich always do well, or we should call them the successful and bless them for their success. But the middle and lower income classes are definitely being penalized by the current political decisions of Washington from Biden, with his hostile attitude, saying before he was elected that he was going to shut down drilling and leases onshore and offshore, and he has moved in that direction. I know there are more leases and there's more drilling now, but the limitations are such that it is being made difficult. By the way, he pointed out that we need oil for 10 years. Well, who wants to invest when you see a 10-year noose around your neck? He is unfriendly to the oil and gas industries. Now, 60% of Democrats don't want Biden to run for president. I think that's interesting. Let's see here now. Oh, my goodness, I've covered a whole bunch of topics. All right, what do I have here? This is a 5-pound weight. It is neoprene covered, which makes it feel so good in your hand. In addition, the handle is thicker than the all steel handles, and it just feels like a joy. There is an exercise called cross-country skiing, and there is a cross-country skiing Nordic track machine. The interesting part of that exercise is like swimming. That is, it is full extension of arms and legs at the present time, but you can do that with these weights by full extension forward. And I recommend crossing the midline with the weight, and then you do the same thing with the 5-pound weight in the other hand. And like I say, these neoprene weights make it feel more comfortable. Well, what else do I have here? Oh, this is Zyflamend. I call it natural Advil. It's very good at pain relief. Obviously, it's not going to be for everybody. Neither is Advil. Advil has downsides. This will probably have downsides. I haven't heard of any downside, but it's very effective at pain relief. So when you have arthritis, you can take, I think they say the dose is 2, but on natural things, sometimes you need a little more than is recommended on the bottle. So you may need 2 or 3. I've tried it. I have a little bit of a back problem, and I've taken it occasionally. As you may recall, I don't recommend taking any supplement more than 5 days a week. And always what I tell my patients when they ask about the side effects from a medicine, I make the joke, and everyone, yes, everyone laughs when I say, all drugs are poison. I hope I don't kill you. And you ought to have a bad attitude about medicine. Now, that's not completely true. There's a time and a place for everything, but you need to see medication in general as a crutch that in large part ought to be unnecessary. when I wrote my article, The Unhappening of Heart Disease, I didn't come right out and say it, but well, I did say this: 95% of high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and diabetes are completely curable. I am astounded at the patients who come to me who've never been told by the physician that their high blood pressure, high cholesterol, high triglyceride, diabetes is 95% likely curable. And that even has to do with some people who are on insulin for their diabetes, because they are what are called the type 2. And the type 2 is simply due to being overweight. Now, I didn't say what I recommend is easy. I didn't say it was tasty. I didn't say it was comfortable, but it offers you your freedom. So you have to, it's like Christmas. You have to give to get. I know most of us feel like we give too much and we don't get back in return, but that's just a little humor thrown in for the way all of us feel. So 95% of diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, high triglycerides are curable. And if you lose weight, and particularly on an ideally organic, unprocessed whole foods diet, your bowels will improve, your back will improve, your mood will improve, your sleeping will improve, because that is what is natural for the human biology. All those people who want to argue that we are able to eat meat, the proverbial 2 eggs for breakfast, tuna fish sandwich for lunch, chicken breast for dinner, are wrong. That is what keeps me in business as a cardiologist. And I address that in my paper, The Unhappening of Heart Disease. As you can list right there, I'm saying that the heart disease can be prevented or cured. And of course, that's not 100% true. It's just about 95% true, unless the heart has been damaged already. So now next, I have something that's very unusual. This is Il Casolari, cold pressed, unfiltered, organic. I guess that's, yes, and it does say extra virgin olive oil. You can't see it, but it's, well, maybe you can. It's foggy because they didn't filter it. To me, it's not that I want you to use a lot of olive oil, but if you're going to use an oil, I think olive oil is the best one. And this one is unfiltered, and it contains, it's the least refined. That's sort of the way to say it. Il Casolari. I picked mine up at Big Y. Whole Foods carries a Bragg's extra virgin organic olive oil that says it's unfiltered, but when you look at it, it's perfectly clear. That says to me it's not really unfiltered. So Il Casolari, you can go online and look up organic, extra virgin, cold pressed, unfiltered olive oils, and there are several, but I told you the one that's available here at Big Y in West Hartford. All right, now, what is it that I wrote in my paper? And first of all, you can go read it and find out, and I think you should read it. It is sort of largely written for the lay public. The concept is 5 basic activities, 5 basic errors. What we breathe, like smoke, dust, fumes. Let's take a second there. Those idiots who want to get rid of gas stoves are jerks. The best way of cooking would be wood-fired, except then you have to ventilate the smoke out. And the use of electricity to cook food, the safety of that has not been established in comparison to food that is prepared with gas. All the chefs I know, including the healthiest chefs I know, want to use gas stoves, and that tells me a lot. I do think that it's probably, as I just said, a good idea to have a hood with a vent and a fan in it, a fan that sucks the air up and out. So, and then there's always filters in that hood, and those filters need to be cleaned from time to time. Now, so another thing that is wrong with the current Biden policies about going green is, first of all, they should have thought transition. They should have thought about the hybrid electric vehicles. They make much more sense than going strictly electric. In addition, as I understand it, Biden has put a hold on being able to drill and mine lithium in the United States. So he's getting it from Africa, where it's done by people who who are close to slave labor, children who are out there in the fields. I saw this terrible picture of hundreds of people working on a lithium site, African men and children digging up the lithium ore, and paid meager wages. So it's so artificial. You can think what you want to about our president, about our Congress, about what has been done, but it's sort of that statement, just take a look around and see if your life is better or it's more dangerous. Which brings me to crime. I talked about not a single student being able to read at grade level in Baltimore. That's not a rare percentage statement. I don't mean 100%, but like very high percentage of people in most inner cities. And it has to do with the way the school systems are set up, the way the teachers are teaching, the way the students are expected to perform and do behave. All of those things need to be addressed. There isn't one that's more than another. Now, here in West Hartford, I'm not sure the following is true, but I believe it is true. The incidence of crime and even serious crime is going up. Recently, I heard about Avon or Farmington or Simsbury, where houses were being broken into. The same was said of West Hartford, that homes are being broken into. I remember reading about it happening in the sort of higher end neighborhood of Mountain Road. So what are you going to do if your house is broken into, and how are you going to protect yourself? I think the purpose of the Second Amendment is just to demonstrate our ability to be free and in and of ourselves. You can say you support guns, you don't support guns. Most murders and crimes are committed by people with criminal records who have not obtained their weapons in a legal sense. I had an interesting idea that I posted on my Facebook page. I said, if it were made legal to carry push-button knives, I suspect that shootings and deaths would go down. I didn't say they would disappear. I think that a number of people would prefer that. Now, I know that with a gun, you can reach out farther, but it was just a kind of insertion for discussion. I put statements up on my Facebook page for people to discuss. And then there's always those who support what I say, those who don't support what I say, and the debate goes on back and forward. Recently, I've had a number of debates in which I won. And you may say, who said so? It's because the people quit responding and realized that the point I've made. Now, obviously, I ought to be taking positions that I can defend, and but I don't always do that. I just sometimes put information up for discussion. All right, so the question is, ultimately, should homeowners own a weapon for self-defense? And I think that is a very serious and reasonable discussion that needs to be had at the present time. On the other hand, You need to think about the district attorneys and the judges who are going to evaluate you if you do use that weapon in defense. You might need to retain an attorney who can defend you ahead of time. So I don't know whether you ought to join the NRA if you get a weapon, but you ought to have some form of legal self-defense, legal defense ready on the go should there be a shooting within your home. I'm spending too much time on this, but let me tell you, as a West Hartford resident, I now think much more about the rise in crime. If that is a fact, it just feels like a fact to me. And I think our administration is not paying proper attention to it. I know we have a good police force. I know that they're relatively aggressive. I know that they are supported and so on and so on, but that doesn't change the incidence in crime. Now, speaking of crimes, the utter stupidity of President Biden saying that it was, quote, not a major breach, quote, when that Chinese balloon, the size of carrying a payload the size of 3 buses and steerable because it had solar panels on it, went over military bases where some of our highest technologically advanced weapons are kept, over a nuclear site, and then was shot down once it had crossed the entire nation. I was listening to NPR, and NPR said that Biden had gotten more aggressive with the other balloons which have shown up because of the, quote, uproar, close quote, of the American public. What do I think of Biden? What do I think of Trump? Trump is not president. Biden is president. If Trump were president, I would be holding him up to the sunlight to evaluate what he has to say and do. And of course, that brings up an interesting point. Remember when 51 intelligence officers of the United States government said that the Russian collusion was a real deal? That has now been corrected by CNN, by the New York Times, by the Washington Post, showing that it was the Hillary Clinton sponsored creation, that the Russian collusion accusation against Trump was a lie from one end to the other. The Mueller Commission did the wrong thing in supporting that. They knew, the Department of Justice knew that this was all false. I have the TV on now, and it's talking about the southern border. I think that it is a damn shame the way our border is being breached. That is a criminal activity. I didn't say that the people who came across had bad intent, but they are here for a single reason. They are not seeking asylum. They're seeking better jobs and also welfare care, as we're seeing in New York City, where they are being put up in good hotels and then objecting when they've been asked to leave that. And I must admit, I don't think I would want to go where they were being sent, but when you're a guest, you don't give orders, you take orders. Okay, 5 minutes just popped up. So we're approaching the end. If you have any questions, let's see, what do I have to talk about? Oh, let's go back to my unhappening of heart disease. I was recently in a store where someone recognized who I was, and the person behind the counter told me that her sister just had bypass surgery and that she too had high cholesterol and was so predisposed. And so what I'd had her do is get out a piece of paper and write down the following. And here's what I had her write down. Take the total cholesterol, subtract the good cholesterol, which is called HDL, and that number has to be 90 or less if you've never had any heart disease. If you've had heart disease, that number needs to be 75 or less. And that is the concept called risk regression to zero. In other words, those are the numbers where heart disease does not progress and stays at whatever level it is. By the way, an interesting statistic is that 50% of people who have combination of high blood pressure, high cholesterol, abnormal glucose, etc., have no evidence of hardening of the arteries whatsoever in their blood vessels. So you can have all those risk factors and still not have hardening of the arteries in the heart. On the other hand, heart disease is still the number one killer in the United States that may be corrected. Cardiovascular disease, heart attack and stroke together, which are due to the same causes. Those two are the number one killers in the United States. So let's see, I didn't look, but my second alarm hasn't gone off yet, which is a 2-minute alarm. So the concept of risk regression to zero, at what level of blood pressure is there no future risk of heart attack or stroke? And that number is known. It's 110 to 115 over 60 to 70. At what level of diabetes A1C test is there no future risk for the development of heart disease? That's an A1C of 4.4 at the age of 44 and not above a level of 6.2 once you get to age 62. So between 44 and 62, it is your age with a decimal point as the highest permissible level for your A1C sugar test. What should your sugar be? At 2 hours after eating, it should be 90. So I will accept up to 130, so 90 to 130. All right, I got a 2-minute notice. Now, and then we've gone through blood pressure, we've gone through A1C, we've gone through cholesterol. Cholesterol seems to be the most important and prevalent. So take the total cholesterol, subtract the good cholesterol, which is called HDL. And if you've never had a heart attack or an angioplasty or have angina, then your number should be 90 or less. If you've had any of those, then it should be 75 or less. Triglycerides need to be under 100. Uric acid should be under 5.5. Hemoglobin, your red count should be about 14. I just got my own 2-minute notice. Oh boy, these alarms, they're so fabulous. All right, I think it's time to wrap it up. Good day and God bless you all. I am H. Robert Silverstein, MD, for West Hartford Cable Access TV and the Preventive Medicine Center. Go read my The Unhappening of Heart Disease. The Unhappening of Heart Disease. If you have any discussion, if you have any points, you may contact me at the office, 860-549-3444. If you want to know about the coronavirus and the unhappening of heart disease, as well as high blood pressure, etc., go to the website, put my name in Google, H. Robert Silverstein, MD, and you'll find a link that takes you directly to the website. Great talking to you. Look forward to seeing you next month.
Down the street, I heard such a song.